Hey there, I'm Sarah A. Chrisman, the author of The Tales of Chetzemoka, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the history of public libraries.
In Sparks Press, Book 7 of The Tales of Chetzemoka, Addie Simmons, the bookworm of our group of friends, starts a lending library when her collection of books outgrows the room where she keeps them. She and her husband Jacob can't bear to part with their treasured books in a permanent manner, so Addie hits on the idea of a lending library, partly as a way of freeing up shelf space on a rotating basis, and partly she wants to help young Sophie Fuller, who by this point in the series is a plucky 13-year-old intent on self-improvement but poor as a church mouse. The concept of libraries is a very ancient one. The oldest known remains of a public library were once an ancient Greek annex to the Temple of Athena, goddess of wisdom, in the city of Pergamum, now located in modern Turkey. The famous Great Library of Alexandria was older still, and if we go beyond public libraries and start considering royal libraries and government libraries, well, that investigation takes us all the way back to ancient Egypt, Assyria, and Babylon. In fact, libraries dramatically predate books in the bound codex form now familiar to us. Many of the earliest books were written on clay tablets, and the ancient Greeks and Egyptians favored papyrus scrolls. Our prefix biblio, as in bibliophile or book lover, is taken from the Greek word for scroll, and the word for library in many Indo-European languages is still some variant of the word bibliothèque. So at least from a linguistic standpoint, a lot of us are still visiting a scroll room when we go to a library. The codex format, which is the format which now immediately springs to mind when most of us picture a book, first gained meaningful popularity around the 4th century AD when it was adopted by influential figures in the newly emerging Christian church. Codex format books contained so much more information than the old scrolls and were so much easier to use, they had a profound influence on the spread of the new religion. Later, medieval monasteries would become Europe's most important producers of books, with monks painstakingly copying lengthy texts by hand and illuminating them with beautiful illustrations. The Order of St. Benedict required each Benedictine monastery to have a bare minimum of at least one book per brother, and it was standard practice at each meal to have someone read aloud while everyone ate. In the 6th century, the Roman Catholic Church instigated an early system of interlibrary loan by proclaiming that the books within each of its monasteries were communal property of all Roman Catholic churches. In the mid-15th century, the whole book industry was revolutionized when a goldsmith named Johann Gutenberg invented a printing press with movable type. This new method of book manufacture dramatically aided the spirit of inquiry and expansion of education which characterized the era we now call the Renaissance. At that time, wealthy merchant families and some aristocrats started opening up their private libraries for public use, and there was a rebirth of public library tradition as people studied the works of Plato and other classical scholars. It was becoming easier to access other people's books, but book lovers still very much understood the value of owning their own. The Dutch philosopher Erasmus voiced a famous sentiment shared by many. "When I get a little money, I buy books. If any's left, I buy food and clothes." It's hard to say exactly how far back the history of libraries in the Americas goes. Any records kept by the Mayans were destroyed by the Aztecs, whose own libraries were in turn destroyed by Spanish conquistadors. The first library in English-speaking America was established in Massachusetts in 1638 as the foundation of Harvard University. In 1731, Benjamin Franklin started a subscription library, whose members paid an initial fee and annual dues. By the 1750s, a dozen more of these new subscription libraries had appeared throughout the 13 colonies. Through the 1700s and then throughout the 1800s, Athenaeum Libraries also emerged. Notice that word comes from Athena again, goddess of wisdom. Bless her. Or I guess she can bless herself. She is a goddess after all. Anyhow, These Athenaeum Libraries were essentially broader versions of subscription libraries, which hosted cultural events as well as providing access to books. There were also specialized libraries run by businesses and trade guilds, and these contained reference books for specific occupations. One of the most beautiful libraries in the world is right here in Iowa, and you're seeing it on your screen throughout this video. Built in the 1880s, the State Law Library in Des Moines, Iowa features stained glass windows and marble columns, along with gorgeous wrought iron balusters and spiral staircases. If you've never been, it definitely belongs on your bucket list. It is gorgeous. Libraries all over 19th century America educated citizens, helped immigrants adapt to their new home, helped people better themselves, and generally improved life's hours. One of America's single greatest illustrations of the power of libraries can be found in the life of the Scottish immigrant Andrew Carnegie. When Carnegie was 14 years old, he would spend every Saturday afternoon in the library of Colonel James Anderson, who made his personal book collection available to the working boys of Allegheny, Pennsylvania. Carnegie was so grateful for the hours he spent in Anderson's library, he resolved that if he ever grew wealthy, he would see to it that other poor boys had similar opportunities. When he was 50 years old and one of the wealthiest men in the world by now, Carnegie made good on his early resolution by donating $330,000 for building the first of many Carnegie public libraries throughout America. In the course of his lifetime, Carnegie gave away $33 million, that was 90% of his fortune, to build over 1,600 free public libraries in America. Worldwide, he gave away almost $56.2 million to build over 2,500 magnificent libraries. To make communities respect the libraries he was giving them and feel that they had a vested interest in them, Carnegie made them each promise to pay their staff and to maintain the library. Considering what he was giving them, it wasn't a lot to ask. The situation was basically like a parent saying, "I'll buy you that pony you want, but you have to promise that you'll feed her and take care of her." Bringing the conversation back around to Chetzemoka again, plucky young Sophie Fuller is a self-made scholar very much in the model Carnegie intended. By Book 7 in the Tales of Chetzemoka, she's just beginning to discover what Thomas Carlyle wrote in 1871, quote, "The true university of these days is a collection of books." I hope you're all following little Sophie's example by reading everything you can and expanding your own collections of books.
Thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a nice thumbs up and remember to tell your friends about my books. Happy reading!